Welcome back to my channel where we learn music theory in the most unserious way while cussing and drinking like we have an unlimited supply of livers. Science really needs to catch up with our bad habits here. Then again, what are we trying to do? Live longer? Anyway, y'all have been in my inbox requesting for me to talk about modality, so here it is. So in music, modality is a way of categorizing specific musical scales and their corresponding harmonies. That's it, scales. Now the two main types of musical modes that we all know is major and minor, but there are others. In addition to major and minor modes, there are also several other modes used in music, including Dorian, Phrygian, is that how you say that in English? Lydian, Mixolydian, and Locrian. And each mode has its own unique set of intervals, and that gives them a distinct character, which is super useful for film composers when we try to evoke a specific atmosphere or a specific emotion. Now, modality can be used in a variety of ways in music, from creating melodies to composing chord progressions, harmonies. It's an essential concept in Western music, has been throughout history. Bach already used it in Baroque times. I don't know if it dates back to Renaissance, maybe late Renaissance. But it's also been used in pop music, rock music, heavy metal, jazz, you name it. Any style uses the modes. Now, the way it's usually explained is, you can find a ton of other videos doing it that way, is, well, if you play from all the white keys on the piano from C to C, you get major or Ionian. Ionian, is that how you say it in English? I didn't learn this in English. Bear with me. And then if you play all the white keys from D to D in an octave, you get Dorian. And then if you play everything, all the white keys from E to E and so forth, I don't find that super helpful. Like, I see why as the first concept to learn it that way is helpful, but as a composer, it doesn't help me very much. So I prefer to see it all in C and then see exactly what changes. And I like to think of it as light to dark. I like to order them in a specific way where with every scale down, it gets darker in tone. So I made a PDF file, and everything you see in this video is going to be on Buy Me a Coffee. So here's the PDF file. This is how I like to think of it. So here you have the major scale, C major, all the white keys, no accidentals, no nothing. And then there is one that is lighter, which is the Lydian scale. That is a C major scale, except the fourth note, the F, is raised to an F sharp. Now, all the other modes have something flattened, something lowered in them. So this would be considered, for me, the brightest, the lightest scale. We'll have sound examples in a second. Don't worry. And then it gets darker with each line. So if we go to Mixolydian, it's a C major scale, except the B is turned into a B flat. We lower that one. Then Dorian is the Mixolydian scale, except the E is lowered to E flat. And then Aeolian, or natural minor, is the Dorian scale, except the A is lowered to an A flat. And then Phrygian is the Aeolian scale, except the D is lowered to a D flat. And then Locrian is the Phrygian scale, but the G is lowered to a G flat. Now, I accidentally spelled Locrian with a K instead of a C, because that's how it is in German. Don't come for me. All right, let's look at the sound examples. So here they are in the exact order that we just had. So this would be regular major scale. And then if you want to know the harmonies that go with the C major scale, you just build chords on top of the scale by only using notes from this exact scale. So these would be the chords. right? But so this would then be the slightly brighter Lydian scale where the F is turned into an F sharp. This is what it sounds like. And this is what the harmonies sound like. And then this is Mixolydian, where we have the C major scale, but with the lowered B to B flat. And then the next darker one, Dorian, where we lowered the E to E flat. Then the next darker one, natural minor. Then the next darker one, Phrygian. And then the darkest and weirdest one, Locrian. All right, so how to apply this to music, to actual music, because that's usually the most important exercise. I picked something from Pirates of the Caribbean, Davy Jones' theme, because the theme is pretty much exactly a natural minor scale. So that's why that works so well. I did do an orchestral arrangement for it that you're gonna hear, but I'm gonna show you the piano just for clarification. So this is the original theme as it appears in the movie. It's actually in D minor, but I put everything in C minor, so we keep everything in C. Now the only thing that is not natural minor here is this right here, the B. In order for it to be entirely natural minor, this would have to be a B flat, but obviously you never have to be super strict with this stuff. And before you snobs go in, I see a whole lot of parallel octaves and parallel fifths. I see a whole lot of not my fucking problem. Okay? That's not what this video is about. All right, so let's go back and actually play through a true natural minor version. I put the notes that we're going to be using right in front, so when you get the MIDI, then you can actually see exactly which notes we're using to produce chords and the melody. So here you can see I fixed the little thing that was not natural minor. Right? Very tragic. It's just missing the leading tone here. Where it's technically here, it's briefly using a harmonic minor. But so, if we look at our chart here, if we want to go one darker, we can basically use what we just heard, except we have to turn all the Ds into D flats. And then it's getting a slight like Middle Eastern touch to it. But so here it is, all the Ds, it's the same arrangement, exact same, just copy paste it. But all the Ds were turned into D flats to turn it into Phrygian. Right? Darker and kind of more ominous than just the minor version. Now, there is Locrian. We'll get into that at the end for a reason. But so let's work our way up. So we had the minor version, the original, basically, more or less. Let's work our way up. So the next brighter one would be Dorian. Dorian would mean that we take all the A flats that we have in the natural minor and turn them into an A. We lift all the A flats to an A. And then we get this one. This is going to sound interestingly like the opposite of what we just heard. It's going to sound a bit Nordic. Right? It's giving green sleeves somehow. But so that would be Dorian. Now we can go one more bright. Now we can go one brighter, which would be Mixolydian, in which case we take the E flat from Dorian and we lift it up to an E, which kind of already makes this sound a lot more like major. So this is the next brighter one. And you could already hear that the Dorian version already sounded much brighter. But so here's Mixolydian, all the E flats turned into E. Like, if Davy Jones had a happy end, he doesn't get a happy end. He dies. But, I mean, he's kind of already dead. Spoilers. The movie is old. But if he had had a happy ending, this kind of would have been a nice way to, like, do a theme variation. Bit romantic, I guess. But still, you know? This is actually something I do use to make theme variations. If I have a theme that's in minor, but then the character has a happy end, then I turn it into a different mode to give it a different vibe. And this is obviously very, very different from what we had initially. Then, the next step is actual major. Let's grab this again. So in order to get it one step brighter into actual major, we have to lift the B flat into a B. White keys only. And that's what this is. Now it sounds like a Jane Austen movie. But, you know, so much brighter. And then the brightest of them all, Lydian. Lydian is major scale, but we lift the F into an F sharp. In my head, I keep calling this the ET scale, because it, you know, the end where he goes home to his family, it's the da 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 da. That's that. Or Simpsons as well. The Simpsons main theme, I think, is also in Lydian. Anyway, here's the Davy Jones theme in the brightest mode of them all. See what I mean? There is no darkness in this. Now, there was another one, Locrian, which is the one at the very bottom. Let's listen to Phrygian first to get back down here, and then into Locrian. Right, so this was Phrygian. Now Locrian is a bit extra, because in order to get Locrian, we take Phrygian. Again, I don't know if I'm saying this correctly. Could have Googled it, but hey, living on the edge. Anyway, to get Locrian, we take this scale, but we lower the G to a G flat. Now, the problem that this creates is that the root chord on the C now turns into a diminished chord, which is not exactly a good resting chord to have. Anyway, let's listen to it for the sake of having it. See what I mean? She's a little excessive. Like, pick a struggle, bitch. But listen. If you're out here wanting to cause problems, this is the one for you. Go be a fucking agent of chaos. Now, another term you may have heard is modal interchange. Let me unmute that piano. Modal interchange is if you are in a specific key, say C major, but then you don't pick the, like you borrow a chord from one of the other modes for a second. So let me just give you an example. You're going to recognize these from hearing them. So this would be C major, F major, which would be the correct chord in a C major scale. Right? But so if you want to use modal interchange, you could do C major, but then borrow the F minor from somewhere else. Heard this so many times. You can do that with a bunch of stuff, like same thing the other way around. Say you're in C minor, then the fourth chord of that would be F minor. But you could also say, okay, we're borrowing F major from a different scale. Such an easy way to brighten up anything. Likewise, you could say we're in C major again. 151 would be C major, G major, C major. Right? But you could also borrow G minor. Heard this a million times. And then again, you can do it the other way around. C minor, G major, C minor would be harmonic minor, question mark. But you can also pick G minor. Right? This is what we mean by modal interchange, when we are in a specific key with a specific scale and then we use something that doesn't belong to that scale, so we borrow it from somewhere else. The way I think of it is just any chord in any progression can be major or minor. Do you have to know what mode you're borrowing from? Do I look like I know what I'm doing? Do you have to be strict with it? No. You just measure this with your heart. And as usual, you can combine this with all the other stuff I've already talked about in previous videos. Like this goes with any of the other techniques as well. So you can create new combos. Now that's about all the brain cells I had to give today. I hope you enjoyed my usual charming self. Go practice.